Uber allegedly took extreme steps to aggressively expand worldwide. That's according to a bombshell investigation that journalists have dubbed the Uber Files. It alleges Uber exploited violence against drivers to pressure politicians and used stealth technology to fend off government investigations. At the center of this scandal is this man, Mark McGann. He's a longtime lobbyist who previously served as the public face of Uber in Europe. He leaked more than 124,000 internal documents to the Guardian newspaper. They span from the years 2013 to 17. The British newspaper then shared the files with an independent panel of journalists and other news outlets, including the Washington Post. In one example, Uber allegedly used a so-called kill switch that cut access to the company's servers and blocked the authorities from getting evidence during raids on its offices in at least 6 countries. During a police raid in Amsterdam, the former CEO, Travis Kalanick, allegedly issued this order to his colleagues: please hit the kill switch ASAP. Access must be shut down in Amsterdam. Uber, responding to the report, in a statement, the company's spokesperson acknowledged mistakes in the past and wrote that Uber's current CEO had been tasked with transforming every aspect of how Uber operates. When we say Uber is a different company today, we mean it. Literally 90% of current employees joined after Dara Khosrowshahi became CEO. Aaron Davis now, he's an investigative reporter for the Washington Post. Aaron, could Uber and its former CEO get themselves into legal trouble with this?
That is a big question in Europe, where there are obviously a lot of this document haul was based, and there were already extensive legal issues that Uber was involved with there. There are definitely some very strict rules about corporate governance and false advertising, and we will find out now if those come into play, or if some of those investigations that were thwarted at the time, if any prosecutors, aggressive prosecutors in those countries seek to, reopen those. Because there were times that we found where inspectors, police literally entered Uber's office, raided it in Paris and the Netherlands, and as they walked in, the computers were going dark because in a matter of seconds, they could issue this order in San Francisco and isolate and cut off all the computers and devices in an office, because they knew that they were in many cases operating illegally, or at least in violation of court orders in those countries.
These Uber files describe really massive spending on lobbying efforts around the world. Nothing inherently wrong with lobbying for a cause, but what does your reporting reveal about the way in which the company pressured governments?
Well, that's interesting. And, you're right. I mean, $90 million was the figure in 2016 alone. To put that in perspective, that's more than all of the major tech companies in the United States used to lobby the U.S. government last year. And a lot of this was based overseas at those times. And a lot of it we found was kind of this large network of media specialists that they had. They had databases where they were keeping tabs on thousands of lawmakers and influencers around the country, different countries that they were operating in, to see if they could either be opportunities to exploit, to try to increase the popularity of Uber, or if they were a lawmaker who was threatening to shut down Uber, what they could do to neutralize that lawmaker politically or otherwise. And then there was this point in time in early 2016, or really at the end of 2015, where their back was up against the wall. They were in trouble in a lot of countries, and there was these massive protests by taxi cab drivers who had been displaced by the increase of Uber riders, and there began to be violent confrontations between these taxi drivers and Uber drivers, and Uber decided to start to try to capitalize and leverage on those attacks and to draw attention to them. They would leak documents that sometimes weren't public to the media to try to make negative attention for the taxi industry. They would use these attacks to try to immediately get in the face of lawmakers. You have to take a side with us and against the taxis. Yeah. And then there was this one episode in Paris in January of 2016, where there were very violent protests to the point where Uber managers in the country had left their headquarters and were working out of a nondescript office. Wow. And while that was going on, Travis Kalanick, the former CEO, kind of fumed about this defensive posture that the company was in and wanted a counter protest. He's like, can we get 15,000 drivers in the streets?
They were aggressive.
And in this text message that's among those 124,000 documents, he's told that could be dangerous that could be dangerous to put our drivers out there.
Yeah. Aaron Davis, some incredible reporting. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.